Hey, this is Joshua with Cultural Catholic, and much like Wednesday's video, which was a little unique on explaining what my ideal world would be, I'm going to explain what my ideal United States would be, and I'm going to start with the boring stuff, social policy, and then move more and more towards other stuff. So, social policy. I personally do not agree. I personally don't like abortion. That's a little bit of my Catholic coming out, but I don't think I have the right to tell people not to get an abortion. So, I mean, uh, I think there should be some limit to it, but uh, but I don't think that I have the right to demand that of anyone. Uh, uh, So ideally, abortion should be available to those who need it. Uh, uh, LGBT rights should extend to all aspects of society, not only marriage equality, but we should also have housing and employment rights for all LGBT community members. And the same thing goes for those in minority communities. This country has stated that its purpose is to have equal rights for everyone under the law, and we haven't held up our end of the bar. White people haven't held up their end of the bargain with basically anyone who's not cis and white or male. Um, and so having equal rights for everyone for everything, I think I think is something that we really need to extend to everyone. Um, and like I said, it includes voting, housing, marriage, and employment. Um, Now going on to education policy, uh, which to me is the most important, but I'm going to hold other stuff for later. So I think education pre-K through grad should be completely taxpayer funded, um, uh, because education is the only thing that um, can guarantee someone improves their living status. Um, with the way that our economy is changing, we need more people who can program. We need more people who can fix complex mechanical systems. We need more people who can also come up with creative solutions. So trade schools, 2-year schools, technical schools, as well as 4-year grad school, elementary, pre-K, high school, middle school. Those all need to be fully funded by taxpayer dollars. Um, and I personally think we need to have a base curriculum that is set for everyone around the country, with the additional curriculum being kind of tailored to the local needs, because I understand that not that like school children in rural Texas will not need the same education as school children in New York City. It's insane I understand it's insane to think they all need the same education exactly, but I think there needs to be some set standard across the board instead of having a patchwork of standards. Um, Now on to economic policy. Um, I think at the very least, the minimum wage should be a living wage, um, so that anyone who is working 40 hours a week has the ability to provide for themselves. Uh, uh, that, of course, is going to have to be variant depending on location. Uh, for instance, in San Francisco Bay Area, that could mean $25 an hour. In rural Wyoming, that could be $13 an hour. I don't know. But wage has been set, it needs to be then attached to inflation, and that way when living standards go up, people are able to keep up. Additionally, I think that there needs to be a much fairer means of taxation, so that the burden isn't shoved onto the poor and middle class. I think the wealthy should pay more in taxes, and of course that gradient goes up. And one of the sources I listened to, Kyle Kalinske, he argued that anything over $1 billion should be taxed at 100%. And to be honest, I kind of agree, because no one needs $1 billion. Hell, no one needs more than $1 million. But I mean, I'm not. That seems like a bridge too far, to be honest, to have everything over $1 million taxed at 100%. Although that would give more money for stuff. And Social Security should have the cap lifted so that we have more money available for Social Security. And then, of course, with the 100% tax on everything over $1 billion for individuals or people, that would help fund various other services that are able to maintain the system. And infrastructure and things of that nature. Additionally, for corporations, they should have to pay their fair share of, going to go with 40%. Again, that way services and things that are required are paid for. Now on to to criminal justice. All drugs should be legalized, taxed, and regulated. And like Kyle Kalinske of Secular Talk says, the regulated part seems to be ignored a lot of times. So what that means is things like crocodile or meth don't exist in their current forms, and people don't die don't have super adverse effects because this drug is melting my skin off. And with the taxation that could help offset regulation costs, as well as add to the pool of money available for social programs. And with all of the various, and then for welfare policy, which is attached to economic policy, it should be available for everyone who needs it. So for people who are unemployed, unemployment insurance, and food stamps should be available. That way, everyone has the ability to stay on their feet for a little bit before they can, in between jobs. Also attached to economic policy and kind of attached to education policy would be retraining, because driving cars, even though I understand the recent tragedy with an Uber self-driving car, that even though that occurred, which was horrible, self-driving vehicles are still going to become a thing, and we need to have drivers people whose employment is through driving trucks or cars or things of that nature should receive training so they can then get a good job so they can provide for their families. A lot of fast food and cashiering jobs are going the way of automation, and coal jobs are starting to dry up. So we need to have available means to retrain people so they can have the job, so they can do the jobs of the future, and things of that nature. Going on to going back again to criminal justice, police training, it focuses more on de-escalation as opposed to escalation. And again, I don't want cops to die, but the training should focus on making sure that the citizen is okay and that the citizen gets out of the situation alive, not just the cop. Um, and the death penalty, even though I understand it does serve a purpose for punishment, should be completely abolished. Because even though it is a small percentage, 4% of people who are executed are actually innocent. And so four out of every 100 people who are executed didn't actually do the thing they're being executed for. So the death penalty should be abolished completely. Government corruption policy. Money should private money from lobby groups, from super PACs, from individuals, from corporations should not be allowed for financing elections. It should be completely publicly financed, and that'll help decrease corruption and increase transparency in government, and of course representation. And then finally, foreign policy. The United States should cut back a little bit on the military. The biggest part of that would be cutting down on bases overseas. We don't need to be in Germany. We don't need to be in Japan. If there is anything that is sovereign United States territory, like American Samoa, Guam, Seychelles, Marianas, Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. Okay, have military bases there, but if they are not American soil, get the fuck off. That'll definitely cut down on the amount of military spending, which we've, for some reason, replaced as our foreign policy. Additionally, we should stop supporting dictatorships and authoritarian regimes. And yeah, that's the biggest parts of the foreign policy. And finally, what is technically the most important, because killing planet, environmental policy. We should completely cut ourselves off from fossil fuels, non-renewable energy sources, non-clean energy sources. That includes nuclear energy, and switch to renewable resources, wave kinetic, geothermal, wind, solar, hydro, which is a little different than wave kinetic, and focus on those forms of technology for energy production. If we really wanted to, we could put a bunch of solar panels in the American Southwest and power the entire goddamn country. Additionally, hybrid and electric cars should be the norm. Should be less expensive to purchase. And yeah, that is what my ideal United States would look like. Also, Native American policy should do a little bit better at following the most recent treaties we have. Yeah, that is what my ideal United States would be. So this is Joshua with Cultural Catholic, signing off.